Christmas time is here again, and the leading man of the holiday season is a jolly old elf in a red suit. He's known as Saint Nick, Kris Kringle, Father Christmas, and Santa Claus. But whatever the appellation, he has come to embody the giving and joyful nature of the season. So today we pay homage to the big guy in red. Today, Santa Claus is coming to Hollywood Graveyard. Santa's checked his list twice, and a little elf told me that you've all been good boys and girls this year, and Santa will be coming down your chimney with gifts very soon. So in anticipation of his arrival, let us wrangle up a few cemetery reindeer, hop into our own red sleigh, and fly through the cemeteries of the world to explore the history of Santa Claus. We begin with the real St. Nicholas, and how the legend of this saint evolved into the Santa Claus we know today. We'll then spend some time remembering the beloved and talented actors who have donned the red suit over the decades on the big and small screens. So buckle up, my friends. Our Christmas journey will take us all around the world today. St. Nicholas was a 3rd and 4th century Christian bishop of Greek descent from the ancient region of Anatolia, which is in modern-day southern Turkey along the coast of the Mediterranean, a far cry from the icy North Pole. Not much is known about the life of the real St. Nicholas, with no contemporary accounts. Much of the historical record on him was written centuries after his death, with likely elaborations and embellishments added to his mythos. According to tradition, he came from a wealthy and devout Christian family. After his parents died, he opted to obey Jesus' word to sell what you own and give the money to the poor. This he did, using his whole inheritance to assist the needy, feed the hungry, and aid the sick. He earned a reputation for secret gift-giving, including dropping money through the windows of the needy, which over the centuries fueled legends and myths that would evolve into our modern Santa Claus. He would come to be known as the patron saint of children and toy makers, among others. St. Nicholas died at the age of 73 on December 6, 343. He was the bishop of a town called Myra, modern-day Demre, which is where we find ourselves. This is the church built in his honor here, the Church of St. Nicholas. This church was built over the original church and burial site of St. Nicholas about 200 years after his death. As we explore the final resting place of St. Nicholas, I will add the disclaimer that there remains uncertainty about the actual original and current location of St. Nicholas's grave, due to the lack of definitive documentation, no inscriptions on tombs, and various disputes over the near 1700 years since his passing. In the centuries that followed his death, the tomb of St. Nicholas became a popular pilgrimage site. The general consensus today is that St. Nicholas's remains were entombed in a sarcophagus in this church until the 11th century. Several tombs have been eyed here as St. Nicholas's possible original tomb, and if you were to visit the Church of St. Nicholas today or simply Google St. Nicholas's tomb, this is the sarcophagus most often pinpointed as the one. Here, tourists regularly come to connect with and pray to the beloved and generous saint who would inspire Santa Claus. But you'll notice that the side of the tomb has been smashed open and the tomb itself is empty. That brings us to the next chapter in the afterlife of St. Nicholas, the 11th century during the Crusades. In 1071, this area fell under control of Muslim Turks. Fearing for the accessibility of St. Nicholas's shrine under Turkish rule, Italian merchants saw an opportunity to bring St. Nicholas's relics to their cities, rescue them as they saw it, which would also help boost the profile of their cities. A sort of competition arose among sailors from the Italian cities of Bari and Venice to retrieve the bones of St. Nicholas. The Bari sailors got there first. Upon arrival, they asked the Greek Orthodox monks in the church to show them to the tomb of St. Nicholas. They did so, not anticipating the sailors' intentions to raid the tomb. Over the objections of the monks, the sailors broke their way into the tomb and quickly gathered up the bones of St. Nicholas and absconded with them, in an act described as holy robbery. They quickly spirited the bones away to their ship, making their escape before locals could intervene. Now back to this sarcophagus, alleged to be the one the sailors broke into and found St. Nicholas's bones. The reason doubt is cast on this particular sarcophagus is the fact that a contemporary account by the sailors of the raid of the tomb indicated that they smashed open the cover, and then one of the sailors stepped down into the tomb to gather up the bones. As you can see, this tomb was smashed in from the side, and no one could step into it, only perhaps crouch down and reach into it from the side. This has led some to propose other tombs here, including this one, proposed by the Russians during restorations in the 1860s, or this one, given the nature of the damage to it. But again, we just don't know for sure. What we do know is that in 1087, Italian sailors sailed away with a bag of bones said to be those of St. Nicholas. They brought them back to Bari, a coastal city in the heel of the boot. A new church was built to house the relics, the Basilica of St. Nicholas, where the bones were placed in a tomb beneath the altar of the new church. Here they have remained ever since, making this the current grave of St. Nicholas. In 2009, Turkish archaeologists called on the government to request the return of St. Nicholas to Turkey, claiming he wished to be buried in his homeland. But the story doesn't end there. You see, the Venetians, not wanting to be outdone by Bari, learned that in the sailors' haste, they hadn't gathered up all of St. Nicholas's bones, just the larger intact fragments, including the skull. There remained yet relics of St. Nicholas in Myra. So on their way to the First Crusade in 1099, they stopped in Myra, strong-armed the poor monks here in the church, and broke through the floor of the church to dig up a copper urn which contained smaller fragments of bone left behind, the rest of St. Nicholas. After the First Crusade, they returned to Venice with the relics, which are housed in the high altar in the church of San Nicolo del Lido. Now, both Bari and Venice claimed to have the remains of St. Nicholas, leading to a centuries-long dispute between the two cities. This dispute wouldn't be resolved until the 20th century with the help of modern science. In the 1950s, permission was granted to open the crypt at the Bari location for repairs. The opportunity was taken at that time to do a modern, thorough anatomical analysis of the bones, documenting every piece and their place in the skeleton. It was determined that the bones belonged to a single individual, male, age range around 70 to 80. So far so good. This gave the Baresi confidence that they had the right man. But not so fast, says Venice. Decades later, in 1992, the same professor was asked to examine the relics in Venice. The urn was opened, and he found that these were much smaller fragments of bone broken up. Some were broken up as the sailor carelessly stepped into the sarcophagus and trod on them. After extensive analysis of the hundreds of fragments, it was determined that the bone fragments in Venice are complementary to those in Bari. That is to say, there is no overlap of duplicate bones, and they all appear to be from the same elderly male individual. The conclusion? St. Nicholas's final resting place is in both Bari and Venice. He's resting in pieces. But hold your horses, or reindeer, I mean. Once again, the story doesn't end there. You see, in December 2024, just 1 year ago, researchers back in Turkey at the original Myra site announced that they had unearthed a limestone sarcophagus beneath the annex of the current church in the ruins of the original church built on this site for St. Nicholas. They believe this may be the actual original tomb of St. Nicholas, in which case some or all of his remains could potentially still be here. Sensationalistic headlines quickly spread. The tomb of Santa Claus has been found, they would say. But researchers caution against prematurely jumping to such conclusions, noting that more evidence would be needed to make such a claim. Their hope is to find some kind of inscription or other archaeological evidence that would indicate with certainty who is entombed in this newly unearthed sarcophagus. The work is ongoing, and they are hopeful, but there are no new developments on this front since that time. All they can say at this point is that this could be the actual tomb of St. Nicholas. Before we wrap up our exploration of the final resting place of St. Nicholas, I'll quickly note that, like St. Valentine, St. Nicholas also got caught up in the relic trade to boost business for churches. There's a tomb in Kilkenny, Ireland, which claims to host the bones of St. Nicholas, and numerous churches all over the world claim to have a piece of St. Nicholas, including in France, Canada, Germany, Netherlands, Russia, and even right here in the US. Oh, and a quick note to all you kids watching out there.
I don't want you to get confused here, okay? No, the real Santa, he's alive and well, and he's living at the North Pole, and he'll visit your house real soon.
So, now that we've gotten to know the real St. Nicholas, how did he evolve into the Santa Claus we know today? As mentioned, his legend as a secret gift giver and patron saint of children spread among Christian nations over the centuries. On December 6th, Nick's birthday, good children would be given gifts in his honor, while naughty kids got nothing. The practice later moved to December 25th to coincide with Christmas. In 16th century England, the figure of Father Christmas came about. Father Christmas was depicted as a large man in green or scarlet robes with fur, who brought peace, joy, good food, and revelry on Christmas Day. His depiction would inspire the Ghost of Christmas Present in Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. In the Netherlands and Belgium, Sinterklaas is a legendary figure based on St. Nicholas. He is depicted as an elderly man with a stately white beard who wears long red robes and brings gifts to children. During his celebration in the Middle Ages, honoring what St. Nicholas himself did, the feast was an occasion to help the poor by putting coins in their shoes or stockings, which evolved into putting presents into children's stockings. The name Santa Claus is derived from the name Sinterklaas. There are even Old Norse and Germanic pagan traditions in the mix, with references to Odin, which may be why the old bringer of gifts found himself relocated from the Mediterranean to the snowy north, riding in a sleigh driven by a mighty steed. Or in some traditions, a goat. All these different personifications and traditions began to merge in the 19th century, when interest in the Christmas holiday began to rise, and it became more of a family-centered festival of generosity. Poems from the early 19th century would lay the groundwork for a unified Santa Claus figure. The 1821 poem, Old Santa Claus with Much Delight, begins, "Old Santa Claus with much delight, his reindeer drives this frosty night, o'er chimney tops and tracks of snow, to bring his yearly gifts to you." 2 years later, perhaps the most famous Santa-related poem was written by Clement Clark Moore, A Visit from St. Nicholas, better known as The Night Before Christmas. "'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there." This poem is responsible for establishing many of our modern perceptions of Santa Claus, from his physical appearance to his 8 tiny reindeer. It was originally published anonymously in 1823, but was later attributed to author Clement Clark Moore. That brings us to Trinity Church Cemetery in New York, where Clement Clark Moore was laid to rest after his death in 1863. Early illustrations of Santa Claus varied considerably. There were some common elements, but up until the late 19th century, there really was no unified look for Santa Claus. One of the first artists to define the modern image of Santa Claus was Thomas Nast, a cartoonist considered the father of the American cartoon. Beginning in the 1860s, Nast created illustrations of merry old Santa Claus, including this 1881 portrait, which would help cement his iconic look as we know it today. Nast also included in an illustration Santa's address as Santa Clausville, NP, the NP meaning North Pole. Thomas Nast died on December 7th, 1902, the day after St. Nicholas's Day, and rests here at Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx, New York. By the late 19th, early 20th centuries, the Santa Claus character and mythos had been, for the most part, firmly established as we now know him, though variations still exist from region to region and between cultures. And it wouldn't be long until Santa made his debut in motion pictures. From the earliest days of cinema, Santa Claus has been a favorite character on screen, bringing joy to millions through the magic of motion pictures for more than a century. Let's take some time now to remember some of the actors who have donned the red suit and beard to play Santa Claus on film and television. The earliest extant depiction of Santa Claus on film comes to us courtesy of a filmmaker named George Albert Smith. In 1898, the pioneering British filmmaker made a silent movie called Santa Claus. It's believed to be cinema's earliest known example of parallel action and double exposure techniques. It's also the first known depiction of Santa Claus on film. In it, Santa Claus comes down the chimney and into the children's room to leave presents for them. The actor who portrayed Santa Claus was not credited, but it is believed he was portrayed by the filmmaker himself, George Albert Smith, which would make him the earliest known actor to portray Santa Claus. A year earlier, in 1897, American Mutoscope made a film titled Santa Claus Filling Stockings, which also depicted Santa, but that film is lost and the actor who depicted Santa is unknown. George Albert Smith died in 1959 and was cremated here at the Downs Crematorium in England, though there is no known marker for him. The first actor to be explicitly credited as playing Santa Claus in a movie was Leedham Bantock in the 1912 film Santa Claus, a film he also wrote. Bantock died in England in 1928. His burial details are currently unknown. Let's spend a little time now back at Chapel of the Pines in Los Angeles, a site that will be familiar to you if you've seen our previous videos. For those of you who haven't, Chapel of the Pines is an historic crematorium and columbarium. Many Hollywood stars were cremated here, after which some were inurned in the columbarium. But the ashes of many who were cremated here ended up down in the community vaults, either intentionally or their ashes were unclaimed. The vaults are not accessible to the general public. We were able to access the vaults in 2023 in a collaborative effort with Chapel of the Pines to catalog the urns in vaultage. Resting among the thousands of urns in these vaults, in Vault 1, the oldest of the 5 vaults, is an actor named Ferdinand Munier. He portrayed Santa Claus in a few films in the 30s and 40s. In 1934, he played Santa in Babes in Toyland alongside Laurel and Hardy.
I ordered 600 soldiers at 1 foot high.
I thought you said 100 soldiers at 6 foot high.
You got the order all wrong. I couldn't give those things to my children to play with.
He then donned the red suit for 1944's Lake Placid Serenade and 1946's Road to Utopia. Our next Santa story takes us to Hollywood Forever Cemetery, but is directly connected to the vaults at Chapel of the Pines as well. It's a story you well know if you've seen our previous videos. Miracle on 34th Street has become one of cinema's most beloved Christmas stories, particularly the original 1947 incarnation. It starred Edmund Gwenn as Kris Kringle, whose performance remains one of the most cherished depictions of Santa Claus on screen.
Would you please tell her that you're not really Santa Claus? That there actually is no such person?
Well, I'm sorry to disagree with you, Mrs. Walker, but not only is there such a person, but here I am to prove it.
The role won him the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, to which he responded in his acceptance speech.
Now I know there's a Santa Claus.
We find his niche and urn now in the Cathedral Mausoleum at Hollywood Forever Cemetery, but he didn't arrive here until 2023, 64 years after his death. Edmund was cremated at Chapel of the Pines in 1959, and for reasons that are not clear to this day, his urn was never retrieved and was therefore stored in the vault. Decades passed and his urn was lost. Several attempts were made to try and find it over the decades, to no avail. As mentioned, in early 2023, we began to undertake efforts at Chapel of the Pines to digitally catalog the more than 10,000 urns in the vault. These efforts were led by our friend and colleague and fellow Hollywood historian Jessica Wall. And in March of 2023, we had our own little miracle on Catalina Street. While we were working in Vault 5, Jessica found the urn of Edmund Gwenn. She found it on a shelf, wrapped up in paper, almost like a Christmas present. It was an incredibly surreal moment to have found him after 64 years. We notified some of his living relatives back in England, and they gave their blessing to have Edmund's urn retrieved from the vault, which has no public access, and moved to this beautiful glass front niche at Hollywood Forever, where he could finally be visited. This niche was generously funded by donations from hundreds of fans all over the world. And in December 2023, we had an inurnment ceremony for Edmund here, attended by none other than Saint Nick himself. Weeks later, just after Christmas, I went back to visit Edmund's niche. To my surprise, a cane had been left there on Christmas Eve. Those of you who have seen Miracle on 34th Street know exactly what that means.
Oh, no, it can't be. It must have been left here by the people that moved out.
Maybe. Maybe I didn't do such a wonderful thing after all.
For the full story of the Chapel of the Pines vault and how Edmund's urn was found, be sure to check out our other videos, Opening the Vault, The Story of Chapel of the Pines, and the follow-up, Miracle on Catalina Street. Miracle on 34th Street would be adapted several more times in the years to follow. The next adaptation starred Thomas Mitchell as Kris Kringle, which brings us back to Chapel of the Pines. Thomas Mitchell's urn is housed down in vaultage. We find it here on shelf 116 in Vault 5, the same vault where Edmund Gwenn's urn was discovered in 2023. This adaptation of Miracle on 34th Street was made as a TV movie and aired on Fox in 1955.
Sorry to interrupt your work, but you're making a serious mistake. Huh? With reindeer, I mean. You're putting Prancer where Dasher should be. And Blitzen should always be on my right-hand side.
He should, huh?
Yes, and another thing. Donner's antlers have 4 points instead of 3. But I don't suppose anyone would notice that except me.
No, I don't suppose so. Say, who are you?
My name is Kringle. Kris Kringle.
Mitchell is also known as Gerald O'Hara in Gone with the Wind and won an Oscar for his role in Stagecoach. 4 years later, NBC would produce a Friday night special presentation of Miracle on 34th Street. That brings us now to the Columbarium of the Dawn in the Great Mausoleum in Glendale, to find the niche of one of early Hollywood's favorite perfect fool actors, Ed Wynn. Known for roles like Uncle Albert in Mary Poppins and voicing the Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland, Ed Wynn donned the Santa hat for this 1959 TV adaptation of Miracle on 34th Street.
Who do you think I am, Susan?
A nice man my mother hired to play Santa Claus.
Oh, no. My name is Kris Kringle. I am Santa Claus. You don't believe that, eh?
Continuing this made-for-TV tradition, let's head now to the cremation garden of Westwood Village Memorial Park to find the grave of Sebastian Cabot. He's remembered for his many voice roles in Disney productions, including narrating Winnie the Pooh. In 1973, CBS aired their adaptation of Miracle on 34th Street, the first true color adaptation in which Cabot plays Kris Kringle.
Are these your real whiskers?
Well, of course. Why don't you try them? Oh, that's because I am the real Santa Claus, you see. Now tell me, what does Susan Walker want for Christmas?
The most recent adaptation of Miracle on 34th Street came in 1994 and stars an actor familiar to you Jurassic Park fans. Let's cross the Atlantic to spend a little more time in England. This is St. Mary Magdalene Church in the London area. Resting within these historic walls is Lord Richard Attenborough, who played Kris Kringle in the 1994 film. This adaptation was the first theatrical feature film since the original.
You are a very beautiful young lady. What's your name? Sammy.
Leaving 34th Street behind, let's double back and spend some time now in the Twilight Zone. Known for twist endings, unsettling horror, and sci-fi, The Twilight Zone made a uniquely poignant and sentimental episode in December 1960 called Night of the Meek, in which a down-and-out department store Santa, played by Art Carney, wishes that just once the meek could inherit the earth, and then finds himself in possession of a very special Santa bag. The episode was written by Rod Serling and remains one of the most beloved of the series.
Hey, everybody! Hey, kids! Merry Christmas, everybody! Hey, kids, everybody! Merry Christmas!
Although if I had my choice of any gift at all, I think I'd wish I could do this every year.
Art Carney would play Santa a couple more times, including in the 1984 film The Night They Saved Christmas and The Great Santa Claus Switch with the Muppets. Art rests here at Riverside Cemetery in Connecticut. Santa has often appeared on the small screen as well, including by Edmund Gwenn's cousin. We're back at Westwood Village Memorial Park. High on the wall of the Sanctuary of Remembrance is the niche of Cecil Kellaway. The Oscar-nominated British actor played Santa Claus on the 60s sitcom Bewitched in the season 1 episode A Vision of Sugar Plums. In the episode, Samantha uses a little magic to prove to Billy Mooney that Santa Claus is real.
But before I go, I want you to tell me what you'd like for Christmas.
I don't know. I guess I haven't thought much about it.
Oh. Oh, well then, take your time. Just take a little look around the display tables and pick out something nice for yourself. Or maybe for someone else. Remember, Michael, the real happiness of Christmas isn't found in what we get, but what we give.
Let's head now into the mausoleum at Woodlawn in Santa Monica to find a man who played Santa Claus quite a few times. Here lies Hal Smith. He's particularly remembered for voicing Santa in a number of animated productions. He voiced a Stone Age Santa on the Flintstones in 1964.
Mr. Santa Claus? Come in, friend, come in. So nice. Thank you. This cold I have has spoiled everything. I can't make my ride tonight.
What? Well, you've got to. All over the world, children are waiting for you.
Oh, doctor's orders.
Gesundheit.
He'd go on to voice Santa in 8 additional animated series and specials, including The Flintstones a second time, Casper the Friendly Ghost, Yogi's First Christmas, and more, mainly with Hanna-Barbera. Hal also made an appearance as Santa in a live-action series, playing Santa Claus on The Brady Bunch in 1969.
What's your name?
Cindy Brady.
My, but you are a pretty little girl. What toy would you like to have Santa bring you?
Oh, I don't want any toys.
No toys?
Santa Claus is beloved by children all around the world, and not just our world, but other planets as well. Did you know that in 1964 Santa Claus conquered Mars? En route to Mars, let's stop off at Kensico Cemetery outside of New York City to find the grave of the man who played Santa Claus on Mars, John Call. He rests here in the Actors' Rest section of the cemetery. In the film, Santa is abducted from Earth by Martians and brought to their planet to try and help Martian children experience joy, fun, and laughter again.
Lady Beaumont, I'm not accustomed to entering people's homes through the door, but you have no chimney.
Welcome, Santa Claus. We hope you'll make the children on Mars very happy.
I'll try, dear lady. I'll try.
Some of our favorite TV characters dressed up as Santa Claus themselves. Do you remember the I Love Lucy Christmas special? It aired on December 24th, 1956. In it, all 4 of the main characters dress up as Santa Claus. But there was a 5th Santa Claus. Who was it? The real one, perhaps.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Lucille Ball is the first female Santa Claus on our list today. She rests here at Lakeview Cemetery in Jamestown, New York, in a rare blanket of snow here on Hollywood Graveyard.
No, let's sing first.
Sing!
Well, yeah, everything is so wonderful and spending Christmas with our good friends. friends. I just feel like serenading the world.
Okay.
Lucy was originally laid to rest in Hollywood, but years later her ashes were moved back to her hometown in New York with her family. Her neighbor and landlord, Fred Mertz, was played by William Frawley. His grave can be found back in sunny California at San Fernando Mission Cemetery, north of Hollywood.
Fred, where'd you ever find such a big pillow? Huh? Why don't you answer me?
I'm not wearing a pillow.
As for their co-stars, Desi Arnaz and Vivian Vance, neither have a grave we can visit, as they were cremated, their ashes scattered. Another of the popular family comedy shows in the 60s was The Andy Griffith Show. Co-starring alongside Andy was Don Knotts as the hilarious Barney Fife. In the season 1 episode Christmas Story, it's Barney that dresses up as Santa Claus. We find Don Knotts' ornate grave here at Westwood Village Memorial Park, featuring imagery from his memorable career. Even television's favorite creepy and kooky family got in on the Christmas spirit in 1965. In Christmas with the Addams Family, Pugsley and Wednesday begin to doubt that Santa Claus is real. In order to help them believe in Santa, Gomez, Morticia, Lurch, Grandmama, Uncle Fester, and even Cousin It each dress up in turn as Santa, unbeknownst to the others, and give the kids the same gifts. This leads to more confusion for poor Wednesday and Pugsley. It all began when Uncle Fester was supposed to show up as Santa Claus, but he got stuck in the chimney, so the others decided to step in one by one. Uncle Fester was played by Jackie Coogan, whose grave we find here near the grotto section of Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, California. While Uncle Fester was stuck in the chimney, Gomez was the first up to visit the children with gifts.
You see what I see? Santa Claus?
Gomez was played by John Astin, who is still with us as of filming, the last surviving member of the Addams family.
Addams, eh? Oh. One of my favorite names. I've often thought of changing my own name to Santa Addams.
After Gomez left, moments later, Grandmama came into the room, dressed up as Santa. Is Santa a woman, the children wonder? Grandmama was played by Blossom Rock, whose grave we find here in the Memory Slope section of Forest Lawn, Glendale.
What are you staring at? Didn't you ever see me before?
Sure, just a minute ago. But your voice sure has changed.
You must have me mixed up with some other fella.
The children then went downstairs and were next met by a hulking Santa Claus. The Addams' tall and gloomy butler Lurch was played by Ted Cassidy.
No, thank you for Santa.
You sure have grown. You sure you aren't Lurch?
Santa Claus.
After his death in 1979 at just 46, following complications from surgery to remove a tumor from his heart, Ted was cremated and his ashes buried in the backyard of his Woodland Hills home. Moments after Santa Lurch left, Cousin It showed up with a hat and beard and a bag of toys. Cousin It was played by Felix Silla, whose ashes were scattered after his death in 2021, so he has no grave. By now the kids are very confused by this run on Santa Clauses, each insisting they are the real Santa. Morticia Addams arrives next, beard and all. Morticia was brilliantly played by Carolyn Jones, who rests here alongside her mother at Melrose Abbey in Orange County, California.
I am the only true Santa Claus.
Are you sure you're the one and only Santa?
Of course. These two are imposters. I shall have them removed.
Uncle Fester finally manages to dislodge himself from the chimney, bringing all 6 of these imposter Santas together. And in the confusion of it all, the real Santa secretly shows up, leaving presents and snow under the Christmas tree.
Snow? But it isn't snowing outside.
By George, the real Santa must have gotten here while their backs were turned.
Let's make our first stop of the day to Texas. This is Fort Bliss National Cemetery in El Paso, Texas. Santa Claus moved on up to the east side in 1980 for a piece of the Christmas pie. The Jeffersons starred the hilarious actor with swagger Sherman Hemsley as George Jefferson. In the episode All I Want for Christmas, George dresses up as Santa Claus, promising to help an orphan boy get what he wants most for Christmas: parents.
Look, every year some jerk in a red suit comes here and tries to pass himself off as Santa Claus. We never get what we really want, right?
Hey, wait a second. Were those other guys white guys?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Now you tell me what you want. You got it, signed, sealed, and delivered, because I am Santa Claus.
Yeah!
We've done a few holiday-themed episodes on this channel over the years, including a Thanksgiving special last month and a general Christmas special 6 years ago. If you saw either, you'll recall our nods to some of the iconic television holiday specials of the 60s and 70s, particularly those magical stop-motion specials by Rankin Bass. Santa Claus made a few appearances in these specials over the years. In several of them, Kris Kringle, aka Santa Claus, was voiced by a Hollywood legend, Mickey Rooney, whose crypt we find here at Hollywood Forever Cemetery. His first foray into the world of animagic came in 1970, when he voiced the title character in Santa Claus is Coming to Town, something of a Santa Claus origin story.
Not call myself Kringle? What other name would suit me?
There is one. You were wearing this when we found you as a baby. See what it says?
Claus. I can hardly keep up with the orders. I'm afraid I'm going to have to limit my journeys to one a year. But on which night should I go out? I wonder.
Mickey would reprise his role as Santa 4 years later in The Year Without Santa Claus, and then again in 1979 in Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. Then in 2008, he voiced Santa again in A Miser Brother's Christmas. Outside of Rankin Bass, he also voiced Santa in the 2005 TV special, The Happy Elf. Fred Astaire was one of the greats of Hollywood's golden age, known particularly for singing and dancing in musicals. He also narrated the Rankin Bass special, Santa Claus is Comin' to Town. But did you know that Fred Astaire's final TV role was as Santa Claus? In 1979, he made a TV movie called The Man in the Santa Claus Suit. He plays a costume shop owner who turns out to be the real Santa Claus in the end. Fred rests here at Oakwood Memorial Park in Chatsworth, California. We are back at Forest Lawn in the Hollywood Hills. Here we find the grave of Dick Van Patten. The comedic actor portrayed Santa Claus twice in TV movies. First in 1987 in a short called A Mouse, a Mystery, and Me. Then in 2002 he played Santa in the TV movie The Santa Trap alongside Shelley Long.
Merry Christmas, Bill! Who are you? It's Christmas Eve. You were expecting the Easter Bunny?
In our previous video, celebrating Thanksgiving, we visited the grave of Charles Durning. Well, the beloved actor helped us celebrate Christmas too, so let's head back to Arlington National Cemetery, where he is laid to rest. Charles Durning would play Santa Claus 5 times. The first was in a 1989 TV movie called It Nearly Wasn't Christmas. In 1996, Angela Lansbury's Mrs. Santa Claus was the star of the show, and Durning's Santa was the supporting player. That same year, he played Santa alongside Elmo in Elmo Saves Christmas.
As for you, Elmo, you are a furry little hero. When you pulled me out of that chimney, son, you saved Christmas for kids all over the world. So I am giving you a very special Christmas present.
Oh, goody, what is it?
In 2002, he again played Santa Claus, alongside Kelsey Grammer, in the TV movie Mr. St. Nick. He donned the red suit one more time in 2004 in the film A Boyfriend for Christmas. One of the great comedic actors of the 20th century was Leslie Nielsen. His film The Naked Gun recently ranked #1 on Variety's list of greatest comedies of all time. That brings us to Evergreen Cemetery in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Look for a grave adorned with knickknacks, all referencing Leslie's career. A whoopee cushion for his love of fart jokes, an airplane for his movie Airplane, and look, there's even a little Santa Claus here on his grave. That's because Leslie played Santa Claus a couple of times. He first played Santa in the 1991 film All I Want for Christmas. Then in 2000, he played Santa again in the comedy Santa Who, this time developing a case of amnesia right before Christmas.
But I know who you are. You're Santa.
Santa. Santa who? So what do I do?
I don't know, just do what Santa does.
So what does Santa do?
Well, he says ho, ho, ho a lot.
Ho, ho, ho a lot.
Leslie also voiced Santa in a 2003 episode of the animated series Chili Beach. A comedian right up to the end, Leslie had a remote-controlled fart machine placed in his casket at his funeral, which attendees could remotely trigger. 2002 saw the release of the third installment in the Friday trilogy. The stoner comedy film was titled Friday After Next. In it, we got to see funny man John Witherspoon dress up as Santa Claus.
What do you want for Christmas, young fella?
I want an Xbox with all the games. I want all the new gear. I want a new Lex with a bagging system and chrome feet on it. Well, here's my address, Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones! Mr. Jones!
Santa!
I'm Santa!
John appeared in the other Friday films as well. His epitaph, Bang Bang Bang, is a reference to his role in the movie Boomerang alongside Eddie Murphy. Let's head now to Sheffield Cemetery in Kansas City, Missouri. Ed Asner is remembered for playing Lou Grant on The Mary Tyler Moore Show and voicing Carl in Up. During his 70-some-odd-year career, Ed would also play Santa Claus a few times. In 1996, he voiced Santa Claus in the animated TV movie The Story of Santa Claus. Then in 2003 would come one of his best-known and most enduring roles, playing Santa Claus alongside Will Ferrell, James Caan, and Bob Newhart in the movie Elf.
Buddy, you're more of an elf than anyone I ever met. And the only one who I would want working on my sleigh tonight.
Really?
Really? Will you fix it for me, buddy?
Ed reprised his role as Santa in the animated follow-up film Elf Buddy's Musical Christmas. He also played Papa Noel in the TV movie Christmas on the Bayou. And in 1986, Ed played a character who escaped from prison by dressing up as Santa in the movie The Christmas Star. Any Muppet fans out there? Santa has visited the Muppets a few times already today. Well, he did so again in 2008 in the film A Muppet's Christmas, Letters to Santa. In this incarnation, Santa was portrayed by British actor Richard Griffiths.
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas!
You came back! Well, you made a wish. We can't have a holiday wish that doesn't come true.
Oh, is there still time to help us with these letters?
Well, of course there is. Now hop onto the sleigh. My flight attendant will assist you.
Minus the beard, you fans of Harry Potter know Richard for his wonderful portrayal of the loathsome Uncle Vernon in the Harry Potter movies. He rests here at St. Mary the Virgin Churchyard in the Stratford-upon-Avon district in England. Tim Conway had an enduring career, making us laugh on everything from The Carol Burnett Show to SpongeBob SquarePants, and even had his own series in the 70s and 80s. In 2013, he would take his talents to an animated film called Saving Santa. The title character, Santa Claus, was voiced by Tim Conway.
Mr. Claus, I'm so sorry, sir. I'll get that right off.
Oh, that's nothing. You fly around the world behind 8 well-fed reindeer as long as I have, and and you get used to getting hit with a few warm brownies.
We find Tim's crypt here at Westwood Village Memorial Park. The clock is approaching midnight, and you know what happens if we're still awake when Santa comes. So to wind down our time today, let's remember a few more beloved movie Santas who don't have a grave we can visit. Since the actors were cremated, their ashes either scattered or privately held. Paul Frees was an actor I've long wished had a grave I could visit. He's particularly known for his voice work during the golden age of animation, and lending his voice to amusement park rides, including as the ghost host in The Haunted Mansion. You heard him in numerous Christmas classics, including Santa Claus is Coming to Town as Burgermeister, among others.
What's its name? This is the only clue, sir. It says Claus.
And yes, he even voiced Santa Claus in several animated specials. First among them was in the traditionally animated Rankin Bass holiday classic, Frosty the Snowman in 1969.
Frosty's not gone for good. You see, he was made out of Christmas snow, and Christmas snow can never disappear completely.
He'd go on to voice Santa in The First Easter Rabbit, Here Comes Peter Cottontail, Rudolph's Shiny New Year, and Nestor the Long-Eared Christmas Donkey. Paul passed away in 1986. His ashes were scattered at sea. Several classic Christmas movies have become perennial evergreens, watched annually per tradition. Among them is the uniquely hilarious 1983 film A Christmas Story. That film gives us a somewhat unconventional, yet all too relatable perspective on the mall Santa experience, which in the pandemonium of the holiday rush is not always so jolly. Sometimes maybe it's even a little scary for the kids. This interpretation of a Santa who really hates his job was played to perfection by an actor named Jeff Gillen.
What do you want for Christmas, little boy? You'll shoot your eye out, kid. Ho, ho, ho.
Jeff passed away in 1995, and his ashes were scattered at sea.
The prophecy has come to pass that there would come to us a chosen one.
Growing up in the 80s, the quintessential Santa Claus movie for me was one appropriately titled Santa Claus the Movie, released in 1985. It features memorable performances by John Lithgow as the villain, Dudley Moore as an elf, Burgess Meredith as an ancient elf.
Henceforth, you will be called Santa Claus.
And playing the big man in red was David Huddleston. This film, too, was something of an origin story for Santa Claus and the challenges he faces in the modern age of industrialization.
Don't you know who I am?
Sure, you're a nut.
I'm Santa Claus.
Right, and I'm the Tooth Fairy.
Santa, they're waiting.
Don't I hear something first?
Incidentally, you fans of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia also saw David Huddleston in A Very Sunny Christmas as Eugene, feigning a Dickensian ghost of Christmas past. It was his final TV role. David's ashes were retained by loved ones after his passing in 2016. Well, my friends, if I'm not mistaken, I think I hear the pitter-patter of reindeer hooves on the roof. So unless we want Santa to pass us by this year, we'd better tuck ourselves into bed and make a date with somnolent sugar plum fairies. Let us know in the comments below what your favorite Santa Claus memories are. And if I can borrow a phrase from the man himself, Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night.